So I just want to say right out the gate that X and Pearl are some of my most favorite movies of the past few years, and needless to say, Maxine was one of my most highly anticipated movies of this year. I had all the faith in the world that Ti West was going to bring this one home. He was going to deliver one of the best horror trilogies ever made. But if I'm being honest, when I walked out of the theater last night, I was pretty disappointed. This is clearly the weakest of the three, and at the end of the day, this movie is just a mess. So the year is 1985, and Mia Goth is back as Maxine, and Maxine is living in Hollywood, still doing adult films, and still has the dream of becoming a big movie star. She auditions for a horror sequel called The Puritan 2. She lands the gig, and she's just trying to deal with trauma from the events of X while also trying to figure out, there's some killings going on off to the side. People around her are dying. She's trying to figure out who is doing the killings and why they're pinpointing her. And that's basically the movie in the nutshell. And, this movie, the biggest problem with this movie is that it's just not as engaging as the other two. The plots for X and Pearl, the stories rather, those stories, they captured me from the get-go. I was invested in the worlds that he was creating and the characters that he's created, and that's why I love those movies. And this movie, I never really got there. This movie never really grabbed my attention, and I found it to be such a bummer because he did such a good job in the previous two movies, but this one was just kind of, like I said in my opening, it was just kind of messy. You have Maxine trying to deal with trauma from the events of X. You have her trying to maintain this big gig that she has. We have Kevin Bacon doing his Kevin Bacon private detective thing. You have the black glove killer going around killing people. We don't know why. We have the two detectives trying to solve the mystery. I don't know. It's kind of just all over the place. And a lot of these probably could have just been cut. You probably could have just focused on one or two of these, because at the end of the day, like, as a whole, this kind of just feels half-baked. In hindsight, I kind of wish the movie went in the direction of the movie Perfect Blue. If you've never seen Perfect Blue or heard of it, it's an animated film from the late 90s that is like a psychological thriller about a pop star who transitions into being a TV star. She lands a role in a popular TV show. Needless to say, people start to die around the set, and someone starts targeting her, and the movie kind of presents it in like a psychological way of like, is she the one doing it? Is any of this real? I won't spoil what happens in the movie Perfect Blue, but I kind of wish that Maxine took that same approach. Like, it doesn't need to be that exact blueprint plot line, but something similar. Like, it would have been cool to see Maxine grab this role, but she's dealing with the trauma, and she's trying to figure out, and like, people start dying around her, and like, we the audience are trying to figure out, like, is Maxine doing this? Is this some outside forces? Like, I don't know. I think that would have been a more interesting take on this film, but instead we're getting all these weird different branches, and as I said, it wasn't as captivating as I wanted it to be. Luckily, there are some pretty good kills. There's one that takes place in the alleyway that, it's hard not to laugh at it. It's hard not to applaud the boldness of where that, I guess it wasn't a kill scene, but where that violent scene goes. It's hard not to applaud that. Got a lot of chuckles in our theater. So there are some moments of greatness in this movie. There are moments of fun in this movie, but I just think as a whole, like I said, it just didn't grab me the way the others two do. This is not a bad movie by any means. I just don't think it's as good as the previous two. Like, X and Pearl are up here. Maxine just took like 5 steps back. Again, not a bad movie. I was just, I was expecting a movie to be on the caliber of the previous two, and I just don't think it was. Luckily, Mia Goth brings her A game once again. This woman, I mean, she needs an Oscar already. Please give this one. She's gonna go unrecognized again. The fact that she wasn't even nominated for Pearl was a damn crime. Mia Goth is just a revelation here. This is a star-making performance, with Maxine and Pearl and X. I mean, Mia Goth is just incredible in these movies. I think will go down in history as one of the best horror characters ever. I mean, she definitely deserves to be in the pantheon at this point. Everyone else around her is doing great work here. The only one that stood out to me was Kevin Bacon. I don't know, man. I appreciate him chewing up his scenery and doing his southern thing, but the moment he starts to, like, his first introduction scene, I didn't find it to be all that believable. It kind of took me out of the movie quite a bit. I'm like, why don't you just not do this? Why? I mean, I get it. It's harping on like B cheesy movies, but yeah, didn't quite do it for me. And then there's the big reveal at the end. Man, this movie really falls apart in like the last 10 to 15 minutes. That reveal, you could see a mile away. and it just becomes schlock at the end. It just like, I don't know, man. That ending was just baffling to me. I was just like, this is what we're doing. This is where we're going. It didn't really sit well with me. I thought it was a pretty poor ending to the. I mean, the ending itself I like right before the credits. I like that little scene right before. I just mean like the climax, the reveal, and where it goes. I was just kind of like shaking my head, like, what the fuck are we doing? And ultimately, I just didn't find that reveal to be that convincing. Like, it kind of makes sense, I guess, but it felt so beyond belief of what would happen. I was just kind of like, this is ridiculous. We're getting into like ridiculous territory now. I will applaud the production design, and like this movie really does feel like it was filmed in the 80s. Like, man, like this movie was flawless when it comes to production design. Like, my God, like all the exterior shots, you know, the costumes, the soundtrack, like all of it as a package from the 80s, like it feels like the 80s. You know, Ti West grabbed all of his crew into a fucking time machine and then opened it up and said, hey, we're gonna make a movie, and then they filmed it, you know, on the streets of Hollywood in 1985. And you know, my hat's off to them. But hey guys, this is my opinion, and I think it's actually worth mentioning here that, like, you know, we all have different tastes. Things connect with us that others don't. You know, a movie can connect with me, it may not connect with you, and vice versa. And I think it's worth noting that I'm a huge horror fan. I love horror. I've loved horror since I was a kid. And, you know, with that, within this genre, I have things that I like and I don't like. You know, I have a lot of friends and colleagues that love like cheesy, violent B horror movies. You know, like the ones that are just like excessive and ridiculous and over the top. You know, like the ones like the old VHSs that people, you know, collect, like those kind of horror movies. I've never really liked those movies, to be. I'm not a classic B horror movie guy. There's some that have kind of broken the mold for me, but as a whole, I don't really dig the whole, like, you know, B movie horror type stuff. That's not really my bag. And I think that this movie is channeling some of that. And I think that's probably why it didn't really vibe with me that much, is because it's trying to do that cheesy B movie stuff. And yeah, I'm just not a fan of those type of movies. So that could also be why I didn't really connect with this one. If you love those type of movies, this may enrapture you more than it did with me. But I just want to throw it out there. Maybe this is probably a personal thing. It's just my opinion based on the things that I like. And yeah, this movie just didn't do it for me. Again, this isn't a terrible movie by any means. It's well acted, well directed. Like I said, the production design is off the charts. It's just like following X and Pearl, this just felt like a letdown. It does not hit the highs as the others two do. But hey, that's just my opinion. Please, if you've seen this movie, let me know in the comments where you stand. Did you like Maxine? Did you not like Maxine? Are you more in my camp? Do you disagree with me with all caps? Let me know. I'd love to chit chat with you on it. Until then, I will see you on the next one.